So today's topic is the dialer features and the screen share. We're going to cover this primarily. If other questions come up, some other features might come up, we will try to touch on them, but then focus back on how it impacts the dialing capabilities and screen share features. As you have questions, pop them into the chat. I promise I will do my best to address them as we go. And then at the end, we'll have a little bit more Q&A time. With the dialer, there are two plan options. So if you're on the basic plan, you only have the outbound click-to-call dialer. It has call recording, all that good stuff, but it doesn't have the inbound call recording, which is something we're going to focus on quite a lot today, because keeping all of your recordings in one place is one of the reasons why you would use a dialer feature. So just know that you might need to be on the AMS plan for the full dialing capabilities. I'll try to carve it out and be like, this is how you can use this. This is how you can use that. And make sure that you feel comfortable with both of the plan options. Okay, great. So I'm going to share my screen. This one. Okay. All right. Robin, I see you in picture. Can you give me a thumbs up if you see the screen? Love it. Thank you. All right. So lots of new features. I'm so excited. AP is going to be so much easier for you guys this year. It almost makes me wish I was an agent, but I can know how hard you work, so I don't want to do that. Okay. So when you are using the dialer, we'll just do a little bit more of the overview of the feature. Then I will go into the setup of the features, and we'll talk through some best practices as well. So here on the left-hand side column, you'll see that there's a message. You're going to listen to that message. Ooh, there's a discount offer. So what I can do is I'm going to make a note for myself. So I'll say, you can either assign it to somebody. So maybe Jennifer is on my team. Please contact Nathan regarding his health plan life event change, right? So that way you're assigning it to a different person. You can also create a record. So if I wanted to create a record for clearly a telemarketer, what I could do, do not want to call that person. What I can do is go here, grab this phone number, add her in as a lead, new lead, sample person, her phone number, create. Now if I go back to that message, I could save that because now that record is associated with that phone number. I'm going to go into their file and actually delete that because I don't want that phone number to be associated with anything since it's a spammer. Now I'm just going to delete that. Usually I don't recommend deleting. I think that saving it to the record is the best thing to do, but since that was a telemarketer, too bad. Okay, I can look at any missed calls. I can check my SMS history for the past 2 weeks. And I can also listen to non-associated call recordings. So if I listen back to this and I hear that it's associated with a record that I already have existing, I can search for that person and by adding in that number into their file. Or in this case, I've got multiple people with the same phone number. So I listen to it and then I say, oh, it's Shadir Ohadi. So I'm going to save that to her file. That's how you can then use those call recording section here. Again, I went into the message center, unassociated call recordings, and that's how I found that. Okay. So that's just one tiny little element of the dialer. If I go into my leads or clients, I can pull a quick little list together. So if I was going to do in-person visits tomorrow, I could find my clients in a certain county or maybe even a zip code. I'm going to go into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tomorrow. and call this list with dial queue. So if I have the AMS dialer, I've got a progressive dialer that I can just quickly call through this full list. And then got that person on the phone, closed a deal, and then updated their record. And now I'm going to call the next person in the list. So that's how you can do that, right? And if you need to add in the carrier, you've got this little phone book here, super handy, merge the call, and then you have that conversation. Then you also, I don't think any of these people have valid phone numbers in here, but you'll see that there's voicemail drop and playable disclaimer. I'll go into that a little bit more with a real phone number. But basically what you can do is if you get their voicemail, you would wait for the beep, then you would say their first name. So you'd say, "Hi, Steve," and then drop in the rest of the message. It's a great best practice since you have to wait for the beep because we are as compliant as you can make a dialer. The compliance is still on the agent. I'm sure you can still figure out a way to be out of compliance, but regardless, we do our best to make it a very compliant and supportive experience for you. But it's not a forced voicemail drop that we're giving you the option to do. It's a voicemail drop that's just saving your voice a little bit of time. So by personalizing it at the top, it's going to engage them a little bit more, and then you can drop the rest of that message. And I'll show you how to set this up in a little bit. So that way you can have a voicemail drop for each of your agents in their own voices, and they only see the voicemail drop selections that are applicable to them. Obviously, you wouldn't want to be like, "Hi, Steve," and then "This is Roger Smith," whatever, from the agency. So you want to make sure that you have it in the right person's voice. Okay, so that is how to use this little client list here. And you would reset the filters, and then you can do it by their status. You can do it by their lead source. If you have like a little consent that they only want calls, maybe you call that list, whatever it is, right? Lots of options there. And we'll talk about customizations tomorrow, but these little, these lead source, marketing campaign, preferred language, age bracket, these are all analytics tables, and it's one way that you can customize your system to have really actionable data points. So you'll want to track how effective your lead sources are and maybe market to them specifically. So if it's a Facebook campaign, if I find these people, I can call them and be like, "Hey, wanted to follow up on that Facebook application that you sent through to us, blah, blah, blah." So it can be really, really helpful. So think of analytics. These are called analytics tables. Think of them as really actionable, reportable custom fields is the best way to put it. But they're even more powerful than just a custom field. They're going to be very actionable and reportable. Always reset filters. Okay. So anyway, so that call list right there is really helpful. You also have call queues. So you can organize all of your calls from workflows or from just bulk updates into priority leads for agents, first call needed, AEP, referral campaign. Maybe you've got some people who speak multiple languages in the office, and so whoever speaks Spanish would be able to have this list or have that list. Or maybe there's a T65 180 days out call campaign. Whatever it is, you can roll through that and allow your workflows to trigger simply based off of you launching that dial campaign. Let me launch this and I'll show you how I would do this. So that was a bad number. I'm going to call this number. So I'm going to queue up my voicemail. Here's my voicemail drop. I also play recording here. This would be for the CMS disclaimer, for example. Hi, test. So I dropped that message. I personalized it first, and now I'm going to change their status from second attempt to third attempt. So now before I move on to that other person, by saving that status disposition change, now all of my new workflow actions are happening. Remove the tag, remove from the call queue, remove tags, add, send another email, whatever it is. Now I just need to go on to the next person in the list. So you've got a lot of functionality within that. Again, this progressive dialer is only available on the AMS plans, but still, even on the basic dialer, do you see where it says next here? It says previous to next. So if I was using a call queue on the basic plan, I could click into the first person in the list's name, give them a call. When I was done, I would hit next, and then go to the next person, click next. The important thing to stay within the call queue is that you go in here into the call queue and click into their name. Don't just launch the call directly from their phone number there. Click into their file and then go there and then go to the next person on the list. I see a question. So Kellogg is asking, those are created in the settings and we can add in one that can pull in the age. So I think what you're talking about is in regard to the analytics table. What you would, an analytics table is more defined data, like a drop down. So here I've got an example of age bracket. So under 65, over 65. You could also have like 0 to 17, 18 to 21, 21 to 26. You could do those kinds of age brackets. More likely, what's going to benefit you with this question specifically is probably something like a call queue for turning 65. So let's look at that right now. And definitely you can clarify for me if this is not the answer that you're looking for, but I feel like it might be. So here, if we go to settings, and we go to automated workflows, I'm going to create a workflow, and we're going to dive into this later this week also. Automated workflows is its own day. But let's say this is T65, 180 days out. For leads, for clients, for whatever. And then we're going to scroll down here on the date before, so 180 days before they're turning 65. So you'll notice the other dates are last updated birthday, 26th birthday, effective, and renewal date. Now, obviously, you can use on, after, or before, so it doesn't have to be 180 days. You could literally do, like if you wanted to do a campaign that was specific to 67-year-olds, you would just need to calculate what that is. So maybe it's 600 days after their 65th birthday. So save that workflow, so that's the trigger. And then we're going to scroll down to add actions. So my recommendation, a good best practice for using your dialer is actually to send them an email. And if they're a client, also send them a text. The reason why you would do this, when you use your smartphone now, oftentimes if the most carriers now have something where if you do not have the person in your contacts, it will say possibly spam. But there's an exception. If that person's phone number is in your email or in your text messages, it will say possibly Danielle Bond. That is why, even if you're like, nobody ever checks their email, doesn't matter. If it's a lead, you're going to definitely send an email to them with your information. So this is, let's say that this is T65, number 1. You're going to send it to the record minute 1. If this is only for clients or if it's for leads that have opted into text messaging, we could add another action of send text message, again, minute 1. They're probably only going to check their SMS or their email, probably not both at the same time, so it doesn't really matter. And then you can personalize it. Hi, first name. Hi, George. I want to check in on your T65 or Medicare eligibility. Let's set a time. And then you can pop in your calendar link. Thanks. And then maybe you also say, I'll be calling shortly from, and then you pop in your agent phone number. All of this agent detail lives in your account My Information section. So just be aware of that. So I'll be calling shortly. This is the most important part, is having your phone number that you'll be calling them from in the text message or in the email. And then agent name, hashtag. So you'll notice that as I'm typing this, do you see where it says warning? It looks like a template contains a snippet that's broken. It's because I didn't copy and paste it. I was typing it and I typed it wrong. But then once I fix it, now it's in black again. So my advice is copy and paste this in so that way you're like, I want my agent first name only rather than my full name. Now that will display. Or you can edit it, but if you edit it wrong, it's going to say, it looks like it's broken because this is what we displayed in, right? So you just always want to make sure that it's good. And then you'll notice also here, sent by Best Insurance Ever. This is generated on the account level. Reply stop to unsubscribe. That is a requirement. It is part of the compliance elements. It's going to be there. If they reply stop to unsubscribe, you'll see that they've stopped. You can check in your little SMS message center here. You can also forward replies to your cell phone, and you can check in their file itself, but it would be in here. Additionally, they will, even if you keep their cell phone number in the thing and you attempt to text them, it just will not work. So do not fear. So I'm going to also show you another option for this. So what we can do also for this age concept that Kellogg is asking about, if I go into reports, I can build a saved report based off of, like, let's say that I wanted to build a saved report for like turning 72 or like retirement at 70. So this is for my clients. I can make this available for my agents to pull for themselves or not. If I choose this choice, I can also decide to push it to my dashboard, which can be super helpful. And I'm going to do it for leads. Now I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to do a date of birth range for 70-year-olds. I am so bad at this. I'm so bad at it. Let's pretend that I am right. So 1/1/1950. I don't know. I'm bad. Until 12/31/1950. So the from and the to. We want specific dates. You can do it by birthday, but that's not the date of birth, so it wouldn't give you the right age. Now we can group it by like their month of birth, or I don't know, something that would be helpful. Let's say date of birth. Not really the best criteria, but, or let's do agent, assigned agent. Sort order is going to be assigned agent, number of records, because I just want to see how many people they have to deal with. So again, we're going to put an assigned agent into this so that way we see who that is. I want to add in their date of birth so I can see what the exact date of birth is. I'm going to keep in all these other fields. So their name, their status. I probably don't need their city or their zip, but I might need their county. And I can organize it like that. I'm going to put date of birth at the top so it's nice and easy to see. You can also add in their phone and their cell phone, email, all this good stuff. Even if I don't, I'm actually not going to add in phone, so you can see that this will still call this list if you want it to. So I think that I said retirement at, use this filter, retirement at 70. What do I want to do? I want to run that report. I could also view it as a pie chart, a bar chart, manage a goal. So if I have like specific goals I want my agents to be hitting for like applications submitted, things like that, you can generate mailing labels. You can do all sorts of stuff. But once you hit run report, you can call this list with a dial queue, just like anything else. Again, it's only in the AMS plan, but you can go through that list and whatever. So it's going to allow you to run that call list as a report. So for the people at Kellogg, I think that is the most important thing. Thank you. Somebody corrected my math. I appreciate that. Robin, I'm going to address that SMS question really fast or soon. I will, but let me just do a thing. So just to clarify, Kellogg, the analytic field is not going to be looking at date of birth to determine that age bracket. That is something that you would have to set up as a data point. So that was just an example. Somebody had said, I want to see an age bracket. Think of it like an income bracket, right? Somebody's going to say, I make between $100,000 and $150,000, or I make between $50,000 and $75,000, or I make less than $45,000, right? That's what you're going to have in that. So it's a bracket that they're choosing that data, or the agent is choosing that data. It has to be defined because it's reportable and actionable, but the date of birth is a matter of fact specific to that record only. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. In your case, from what you're asking, I think you just need the date of birth and use those saved reports to generate those call lists. But we can, especially next week. So this week, this is all just more like, how does the feature work? Next week is about how to utilize it as a client. So if you're a client, you can come to those meetings and I can handhold you through your specific goal. So if your goal is to create something where like you want to run reports so you can put people into those age brackets really quickly, I can show you how to do that. I don't want to go too far off topic though. Sylvia, I'm going to answer Robin's question first, and then I'm going to dive into the setup, which will answer your question. One more question on the date of birth. Stacy, I'm going to answer your question a little bit later because it's a little off topic, but I will tell you how to best capture that. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I just want to keep a little focused on this. There's so many features. It's a wonderful thing, and it's also a curse. Okay, so Robin asks, will all SMS messages be sent out simultaneously? So in our example of this, let me exit the dialer. Sometimes the dialer is a little bit frustrating when you're doing settings. Okay, so in our example of the automated workflow, where we're sending them a text message 180 days before they're turning 65, the answer is no. We would not be sending it out all at the same time. Why? Because it's dependent on that record. That record, it's going to be evaluated once per day at 6 a.m. So let's say there are 3 people who tomorrow the system checks and they are 180 days out before turning 65. All 3 of them will receive a text message approximately at the same time, right? Because their record matches. Same thing if it was a new lead that came in from Facebook, right? So in this example here, I'm just going to change all this here. So new lead, this is for leads with the status of new lead with a lead source of Facebook ad. They would get those messages dependent upon when they just came into the system, because the trigger, this is the trigger set here. And then the actions below are related to when that record met that criteria. Hopefully that clarifies that a little bit. So yes, this is a very good point. So Robin asks, what if we're talking about a renewal date, meaning all clients with MAPDs that have a renewal of 1/1/2024? Exactly. Then yes, it would start triggering all of those workflow triggers at 6 a.m. the day that it met the criteria. So my advice is, and we'll talk about this really specifically in depth on the automated workflow day. Let me know if you can't hear me anymore. Let me know if you can hear. Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, thanks. So on the automated workflow day, we'll go into this in depth. But my advice would be you would create a campaign that's specific to open enrollment. So this would be AEP. We'll stop it if it no longer matches criteria for leads. And then I'll create another one that's almost identical for clients, but maybe with some text messaging as well. So that way nothing gets generated immediately. But the thing is, I'm going to tag it with AEP review needed. And so when they match that criteria, all of the following actions would happen. So that tag is what's going to trigger it. Then on October 1st, I'm probably going to tag all of my clients first, but then I would go into my leads and I might do a more selective campaign for those leads. So I might say, all right, I'm going to focus on all of my new leads first. I really don't have any new leads here. And then I'm going to select all, bulk update, add the tag of AEP review needed and submit. And now that's going to trigger that campaign for them. But then I might go through and like do it kind of status by status or something like that. So that way everybody's getting all the messaging, but it's a little bit of more of a rolling experience. And you're not supposed to be text messaging leads unless you've gotten an opt-in from them. So you'll want to consider that. Again, we're going to go into in-depth on this on the automated workflow day, but I do think it's a really good discussion point since I was showing you those automations. The one thing that's really relevant in automations that we didn't talk about is how you can add people into the call list. So let's look at that part. So let's say they were in this the AEP workflow. I can add them into the AEP call list. And then I can also remove them from that call list maybe, 3 months later. So if I haven't changed their tag to removed the tag of AEP needed, I can actually just automatically remove them from the call list. Or I can add them into the call list maybe 15 days later into my AEP clients or my AEP leads call list. So that way, at the right time, the right person is getting into the right call list. Okay. So getting back to the dialer, and then I will go through all these other questions. Making the cell phone our default number in the caller ID. Okay, so in the settings, in the phone dialer system, we can activate the click to call and call recording. Here's the caller ID tab. Everybody has this regardless of what plan they're on. If you're on the basic or the full VOIP or the full plan, you have caller ID available. So this is my active caller ID right now. I could change it so that way this is my active caller ID just by hitting set as active caller ID. You can also set caller user specific caller ID in account my information caller ID. We'll get into that in a little bit. Right now, we're just on the account level defaults. Okay, so here you'll notice it says verified yes. If you are adding in your own cell phone number for the caller ID, you would put in your cell phone number, give it a nickname, my cell. You can add in area codes that it should be applicable to. If you want it as the default, don't put anything in there. But if you wanted it only for the 702 numbers, that's what you would put in. And then you'll hit verify. You will need to pick up your phone and enter in a code, which will appear right next to where it says verified no. There will be a little code. You just type it in. One caveat, if you have like an UMA or Ring Central or something like that, and you have a VOIP attached to it, where when it rings, it automatically says, thanks for calling, press 1 for this person, press 2 for that person. You have to temporarily turn that off so that way the system can make that call and have it go through properly. So just FYI, if you have complications with this, again, there will be a setup, like the hand holding next week for clients, or you can always just message us on the help app. Okay, so I would not recommend using your cell phone number unless it is the only number that you have. Or I should say, unless you're on the basic plan, is probably the best way to say it. Because if you start using your cell phone number, And again, this is geared towards open enrollment. So if you're doing Medicare or healthcare, you have to keep your call recordings. So unless you've got a way to keep your call recordings on your cell phone, you're out of luck, right? But if you're using our full dialing system, all calls received and also, sent out of the system will be captured in the system in the leader of the client's file. We hold those records for the life of your account with Radius. Eventually, we might put it down to 10 years per recording. But right now, it's just the life of your account with Radius. If you decide to leave Radius, you would just export all of your call recordings, and then you would just have that, and then you would maintain those records somewhere else. But another thing that a lot of people ask about is why we have caller ID, but not SMS caller ID. The FCC is very, very specific about SMS texting. You are not allowed to have SMS caller ID. It has to be associated with the system that you're using. So here, this Radius default number is what would be used for your caller ID, for your SMS caller ID, unless you go to phone numbers. If you are on the AMS plan, and you can search for an area code there and purchase a number, or you can port in a phone number. And then once you've purchased or ported a number, you can then set that number as the SMS caller ID. You can also do that on the user level. So if you've got multiple agents, they can each have their own SMS caller ID. But it has to be associated with the carrier, which is kind of unfortunate, because while you can have the caller ID, you cannot have the SMS ID. So hopefully that answers that very thoroughly. The call queues is also available for the basic plan. Everything from phone numbers over is only AMS plans. But on the call queues, you can add in a description of AP priority leads, right? Sort order 1 for all users or just for specific users. So maybe this is Spanish and only a few people in my office speak Spanish. So I'm going to just give these people access to that queue. On the user permissions, you're going to say, are all of my agents able to see each other's leads and clients? If so, then on their call list, they'll see the whole list. But if you say, nope, they only get to see their own, and then whatever the permissions you give them, then they'll only see their own in their call list. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a little complicated, but basically you get your user permissions, and then you also give your call queue permissions of who's involved in what call queue. Because not everybody's going to be licensed in Medicare, or not everybody's going to be licensed in life insurance or whatever, right? So this is why we have this visible to all users or specific users. Now on the AMS plan, as I was saying, you have your SMS default. You can purchase or report your phone numbers. You can add in a welcome message. So this could be your IVR menu where it says, hi, thanks for calling. This call will be recorded. You're about to be transferred to our team, but if you want to speak with Robin, press 1, Danielle, press 2, whatever else. Then if they don't get that, there will be a voicemail message that's like, hi, you've reached our general inbox. Leave a message and somebody will get back to you. Then you can also add in as many emails as you want for the voicemail to email notification. Super helpful. I like getting them because then if I'm on a long call, I can be like, I got like a billion messages, and either have somebody else check them or try to wrap up that call faster. Optional. If you have this assigned to only one user, so it's a direct line that you're setting up, you can do call forwarding. So this would be your cell phone number in this case. All calls that are forwarded are recorded. So call forwarding equals recorded calls. They'll still be tracked in the leader, the client's record, and you will be able to have that call recording for later, even though you're handling it on your cell phone. But you cannot do call forwarding if you are doing a ring group. Why? Because that would be stealing everybody's leads and clients. So we have a few workarounds for this, one of which is ring groups. So you can have telemarketers, and then you could say, these are all my telemarketers, and they get the call first. But if they don't pick up, I want my high-level agents to pick up. But if they don't pick up, you could have like a whole rolling list of who's going to do what. And you can add phones to that, including you can add an external phone number so that it rings your cell phone at the same time as it's trying to call other people. I usually recommend that for the last line of attack only, but that's a way for you to do that. Here you can determine, do you want to show Radius's number as the caller ID? So that way when it's ringing, especially to external numbers, you know that it's coming from the CRM as opposed to the leader, the client's file. Just a thought. Okay. Then you've got IVRs where you can say, you would record something that has all the extension lists, but then you would say extension 1 goes to this person, extension 2 goes to that person. Then extension 7 goes to either this group or that group or this user or an external phone number. Phone book. This is an account level phone book that you can utilize. Super helpful, especially for carrier portals, right? So you would add in Humana, client services, 800-111-2222, add entry. Now that will be available for your whole team. If you want to add in like personal contacts or people that you work with on a frequent basis, you could go to account, my information, and then phone book there and add in your own. I'll show you that in a little bit. After hours. This is where if you've got like a virtual assistant or something like that, you can edit this and or add something and say between 9 a.m. Friday at 9 p.m., Monday until 11, I'm going to have this forwarded to our after hours answering service. Greetings and recordings. This is awesome, you guys. So if you're on the AMS plan, you can just ask us to give you a disclaimer from CMS. For CMS, I should say. I recorded it last year. It's the very typical. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, but let me just play it for you. Anyway, so you set that. Hopefully you heard a little bit of it. It was like, this call is being recorded. We do not offer every plan in your area. And then you're going to include that in the playable recording list for everyone. Now, CMS now has a new rule where you have to say how many organizations and products you represent, or whatever. Anyway, my advice, play the disclaimer and then say, I represent 170 organizations. That way you're covered. We are putting it into the system so that way it can be a snippet in the marketing information. But there's not a way to do it in a snippet for this disclaimer. So just play the disclaimer and then state after the fact, I represent this many. But at least it's another 40 seconds of your life that you don't have to be saying something dumb. I shouldn't say that, but you guys get what I mean. Then you can also have voicemail drops. Again, these are compliant because you are available for the call. You're just waiting. You hear the beep, you say, hi, George, and then drop in the rest of the message. Like I mentioned earlier, you're going to want to make sure that it's in your voice. So this might be AEP client and then Sam. So this is going to be applicable to Sam only because it's in his voice. So it's included in the voicemail drop list for Sam. So it's a really great way to add in all those things. You can call to record. You're going to call that number and then enter in that code. And then you'll just edit the name of it. So you'll click the word edit, and then you'll say what the name of it is. And then you'll say it's an MP3, and you'll include it in the voicemail drop list, or you won't. You'll include it in playable disclaimers, or you won't, and then you'll hit save. You can also upload MP3s directly, or you could do that super creepy text-to-speech reading. I don't know why you would do that, but you can. Must be a reason. Anyway, so these are the available choices for you. Let me just look here. Does the welcome message get recorded where we could put this call will be recorded? Yes. So we have that available for you. Just hit us on the help app and just say playable disclaimer, or can you send me those disclaimers? So hit messages, send us a message and say, hi, please send me the recordings. I recorded them myself. It's something that, if you want them customized, you can reach out to me separately. It's not a Radius thing, but for Radius, we're just giving people this if you are on the AMS plan. If you're not on the AMS plan, you can purchase them, but if you're on the AMS plan, you can just have them because you're using the system. So just message us on the help app and you'll get the link. It doesn't record until after the client picks up. Correct. So it's not recording the rings. But when the call gets, so I think maybe this is what the question is. So when it's ringing, it is not getting recorded. Once the beep happens or once the person picks up the call, that's when it starts to get recorded. So if this is in regard to the playable disclaimer, yeah, okay, so I would recommend using the disclaimer. So it's actually a recording that says, like the CMS disclaimer itself says this call is being recorded at the beginning of it. I don't know if you heard that, but basically it's like this call is being recorded for compliance and security purposes. We do not offer every plan available in your area, blah, blah, blah. So you could play that at any time during the call. So you can use that playable disclaimer at your discretion. So if you wanted to, you could literally just upload recording notification. And that's another one that I have for you. Disclaimer. I don't know if you can see this. I'm just searching for my disclaimer recordings. That's recording during. So now I'm going to upload this here. And it labeled it for me, recording notification. And if I hit edit, I can make it into a playable recording. And so now this one doesn't have the CMS disclaimer. It just says, let me hear what it says. It'll say something to the effect of like, this call is being recorded. Just so that way you can hit it like as you start the call with the person. But it's flexible for you. So that way you can either do it in your own voice or you can use the ones that I provided. But you can get super fancy with it. Any questions on the setup? I know it's a lot, so there's a lot of possibilities for you. Okay, so just an overview of the best practices while I'm waiting for other questions. How do you access my recordings? You just message me on the help app and or message any of us on the help app and just say recordings, please. You do need to be on the AMS plan to get those though. So anyway, that's the settings of the phone dialer. Now, on the AMS plan, you've got the dashboard. So especially if you've got like a large account, I don't know why this is taking a while to load. Go there. There we go. So here you can see the marketing metrics of conversion rate, call statistics, call outcomes, appointments, and agent activity. It's really nice. And then you can also customize this. Like there's additional features you can do with this. I'm not going to go in depth there, but within reports, everybody on the basic plan and on the AMS plan has reports. As I showed you with saved reports, you can launch call queues directly from there, or you can look at your call recordings list for a specific phone number. So if you need to like research something like a phone number that you've dialed, or you can use your call log. This is the one that I use the most, is this call log, where you can search your inbound and your outbound calls for all agents or just a specific agent for a specific phone number. For me, it's so mortifying. But like, I'm just on so many calls that I forget sometimes who I was talking to and why I was talking to them and what I told them I would do after. So I can do my little call date and hit detailed report. If you hit summary report, it'll just give you the tally. So this will help you to just track your usage. But on this detailed report, you also get the names of the people. So here I can be like, oh my God, this was my super long call that I had for 1 second. So here, if I go back into that person's file, I can go into their call log or call recordings. Let me find a larger one. This one. So if I go into his call recordings, I can listen back to that call and be like, oh yeah, I told him I was going to send him that email. So I can then add a note and say, send email on training sessions. Right. So you can also play that. You can download it and you can adjust the playback speed. So if I wanted to do it like the guy was a slow talker, I'm going to speed it up. Or if he's saying his phone number, like, call me back as soon as you can, you know, whatever, you can do that as well. Slow it down. I'm a fast talker. I recognize this. It's a problem. So, okay, so that's how you can use the reports. Any questions? Just so you can see also, I'm going to do a little bit more of an extended thing. So we'll go through a playable disclaimer and then how I can merge that third party in. So I'm gonna dial. Oh, I should also mention, here's the dialer. You can launch the dialer or you can start forwarding calls if you have call forwarding enabled. If you do have call forwarding enabled, you will want to log out. Otherwise, it's going to try to call Radius first and then forward it. And who likes being like on rings? Like, you know, if you're calling me and you don't pick up within a few rings, I want it to go to voicemail, to be honest, you know. But just know that that's an option. Okay, so I'm going to stop forwarding calls. I'm going to launch this dialer. I'm going to dial a number. Pick up this number. Okay. So now I'm on with somebody. I have options to transfer them to another person. It will tell me if they're available or if they're on calls. I can leave them a voice message if I didn't get them, right? But now this person is like, oh, I really want to buy Medicare. I'm going to play this disclaimer. And then so on. And then I'll say, I represent 170 plans with 5 organizations. All right, let's talk about Medicare, blah, 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 blah. We talk about Medicare and then they're like, great, I really want to do this. So I put them on hold. And I dial a number, probably from my phone book. Well, my personal phone book has my bestie, my husband, my other husband. And then I'm going to call my Aetna patient portal. If that was an actual phone number, here, let me do another actual phone number. I don't think any of those are right. So you would hit that, but pretend I'm not doing that. Let me say 702-919-6298. Once they pick up, I would hit merge. So that way, and now I can either pick up that other call or if I had merged them, whatever. But I recommend waiting to merge the call until you have somebody on the line. So that way you don't have to so that way you can hang it up and not merge the call if you don't get somebody on the line. So that's my best practice for using that 3-way calling. Robin asks, what wording should I use when requesting recordings so it makes sense to somebody other than you? I've told people about this, just say, give me the call recordings that they're, give me the recorded disclaimers. Just say that. That's enough. I'll search for it after this and assign it to myself. But Haley, who is now working on support, she's already out of the office for the day, but she's trained on this, so she knows that people will ask about it. And if she forgets, it's not a big deal. She just ask me. Okay. So great. I want to go through a little bit about the screen share. Let me see what we're doing. Okay on time. Not great, but okay. So if I was talking to somebody on the phone, I can initiate a screen share directly and hit start screen share. The first time that you use this on your computer, you might need to run a little screen share program. So you'll just double click to install that. You'll open it and allow for it. It's called Screenleap is the company, and it's Screenshare is the application. So hopefully you can see that my screen is being shared. There are 0 viewers. So if I were, I'll stop sharing right now so you guys can see this slowly. So I'm going to say start screen share. It generates this little link here. Let's say that they don't really use their email. They're like, I'm more of a text messaging girl. So you'll return to her. If her cell phone number is in the cell phone field, you could then hit send text and paste it. So let me just pop that in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to send her a little message. Just thinks that it's invalid. Come on. All right. If it really thought harder, let me just go in and out then. Now I can send her a text message. Oh, it's because I left out a phone, a digit. That's why. See, our system is so smart. 702 919 6298. All right. Now it should let me do this, I think. I still did it wrong. I'm losing it, you guys. 6298. Send text, paste, and send. You can also then use this to send it to other people too. So if there's like a spouse that wants to join or whatever, you could do that. A question that came up earlier was about like tracking other people's ages. So let's say Yvette does have a husband and she's like, I really want my husband to join this appointment. He's about to turn 65, whatever. What I would do is I would go to her linked records tab, add a record link, and then search for Stewart. And he's not a client yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say he's a spouse, and I'm going to create him as a new lead or as a new client relationship, whichever one you want to do. I'm going to assign him the status of spouse as a client. Stewart. All of her information populated over because it's just going to try to do that for you. It's going to attempt to be helpful. But sometimes it's not helpful because it's really like a doctor or an employer or something like that. But anyway, so we'll create that lead. And now I can also text him that information is the screen share link. Right. You'll notice we also have these little templates. You can now create text templates for the purpose of direct messaging in the template section. So that could be also helpful. If you think that you're going to do this on a regular basis, you might want to create a little template. The screen share code is unique. So that code is going to be unique each time. But at the very least, you could have like a little text template. We'll go over here to templates. Scroll down here. So screen share. please join me on our screen share happening now at. So now if I'm in his file, I also really like this little, I don't know if you guys can see it up here on the right because of the images, but up here on the right, there's this little people icon. So I can see my most recent records. Then I'm going to send him a text. I'm going to select the text of the screen share and then paste that in and send him that message. My screen is not moving. Oh, shoot, you guys. Some of it is because of the fact that I'm only sharing. Oh, my screen sharing is paused. Who paused it? I didn't pause it. I'll have to jump in a second anyway. So what I had said was here, we go to templates, we would scroll down to this little text message template. I added this one for screen share where it just says, please join me on our screen share happening now at, and then I gave this message is available for all users and I hit submit. Then I went to this little people icon up here in the upper right-hand corner to Stuart. I hit send text. I grab that screen share template. This is in alphabetical order. It gives me the default that I have, and then I just paste that link in and I hit send message. So it's really handy. Also, the nice thing with screen share is, let me start a screen share again. Another nice thing is when it pops up, hopefully you see this. Do you see where it says share entire screen? And then also there's this little like icon here for a mouse. This little mouse icon gives you permission to give them permission to take over your screen. So if they need to sign a consent form or something like that, they can do it directly in that screen share. I'm going to stop sharing and then also quit my screen share application so that way it doesn't keep running in the background. Okay, I do need to wrap up. I know it's a huge feature to cover. Tomorrow is going to be, we're going to talk about what? We're going to talk about customizations and the SOA consent to contact. We also have a new feature that I just wanted to flag to you guys. I'm very excited about it. It's in the messages center, so you can always go back to your messages and then go to your little client self-service and prescriptions. Watch the video, and we also have Google two-way sync right now, which we'll cover later in the week. But this, I think, is really quite wonderful. Now your clients can update their own prescriptions with these. When they're a client, notice here up here on the right, it's a lead right now. So we don't have a enable self-service, but if I go to a vet, she has either enable self-service or view self-service. So she can look here, she'll see your information here, her policies, any documents you've given her permission to, and then any prescriptions that she has, she can add them or she can edit them. So it's a really wonderful feature. You just need to tell your clients that they have to fill out every field except for notes. So drug A, the RX code, if they're like, I don't know what that is, just put in NA. It needs something in there. Currently taking yes, no, and save that information. So if there's a bigger explanation on that video, we don't really have time for it right now, but we'll go into this more this week. I just wanted to flag it as a really wonderful new change that's going to make your lives a lot easier. You can disable self-service at any time and then re-trigger the email to go out to this person with her own encrypted portal and then the password as well. Just check for any last questions. So Stacy, I hope that that briefly covered your question about the linked records. You do want to, I would definitely create them as a linked record, and then it gets tracked better. And then you can market to them more specifically. And again, with this linked records, you can see it here, or it's in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen as well. And you can toggle between their accounts. And if you've got like 7 children for this couple, they can all be in one of the records. So it's very helpful. That's the way that I think is best to track everything. But up to you. You can, add in custom fields. I just don't think it's not as easily reportable or actionable. And I am all about automation process. So that's why I advise that. Yeah, there's a tutorial on it specifically. So let me pop that into the chat for you. Correct. You would create the wife, and then you would go to her linked records and add him in there. So that way you don't have to repopulate all of their contact information. Obviously you would need to have a separate date of birth for them and all that stuff, but like it'll be easier. And in the video, you'll see I recommend, having a specific status for that, because then if you sell, I think most of you either sell Medicare or health, but like if you're selling Medicare and that person isn't 65 yet, you can put them into a status of, spouse as a client. And then when they're turning 65, in addition to the general to 65 messaging, you could have a specific workflow that goes out to just people that have the status of spouse as a client that says, hey, you might be eligible for a household discount. Let's talk with you and your spouse. So you can make your marketing more strategic that way. You also can do that for turning 26. So that way you can track those children, and as they age into the appropriate time for you to start contacting them, you can do so. Okay. Stop sharing, it'll let me. Okay. So we'll cover more of that later in the week. And then next week, we'll have the work sessions where I can handhold through anything that needs to happen. And we'll go from there. Hopefully this was helpful. I know it was kind of jumping around the place, but hopefully you were able to get a sense of how you can use the dialer system. If you're a client and you did have more questions, join the session next week where I can help you a little bit more with the setup. If you're not a client, or if you are, feel free to use the help app to ask any follow-up questions, and it'll get to you as fast as possible. Thanks so much, everybody, and have a great day. Bye.